also try Molfix.
Right, as it happens, every political season claims of media bias are flying around like campaign banners. But has the free and independent media really passed its tipping point? Or is this a case of perception trumping reality? What does impartial coverage, impartial political coverage, actually look to you? And is pointing out the truth, even when it is inconvenient, is it that bias? With all due respect tonight, we have the best panel to discuss this. Radio Africa Group Digital Editor Oliver Madenge, karibu sana. Good to see you. We also have Africa Checks Kenya Editor Alphonse Shundu. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
And of course, Media Council of Kenya Director Victor Bwire.
Pleasure.
Welcome to the program, gentlemen.
Asante.
When we're putting this thing together, one of the things that came about and discovered on social media a lot is how biased we are, all right? And let's start with, I suppose, from where we should, the statement that capped it all. Listen to this.
Kwa hivyo vile nilisema ya kwamba gazeti ni ya kufunga nyama ni sawa. Tuendelee namna hiyo.
All right, gentlemen, welcome to the program. Gazeti ni ya kufunga nyama. Oliver, how does this statement first sit with you? Before we even go to knowing very well you wake up every single day, you work on this, how does this statement sit with you?
I think, James, first, thank you for inviting me for this show. And I think that statement is one statement that I think every other time I think about it is, I feel offended. I think it's not right for us to think that others people professions are nothing just because you are the president or any other person. So
right.
It's important for people to respect each other. And I think in this space that we are in, gazeti si ya kufunga nyama pekee. I think it's a tool for democracy. It's a tool to give people information, help people make decisions, and so we cannot just say that it traps meat. It's a wrong perception to create.
That was purely a political statement, and like Oliver said, the president owns a newspaper, so it can't be kufunga nyama. I mean, if you looked at it, he wouldn't have invested in a newspaper. So I looked at it and obviously thought this a political statement, obviously to satisfy one of their political strategy demands, but which I'm sure he didn't mean. But he already made it public. It did offend, obviously, people because the amount of work, the amount of influence, the amount of education. I mean, we tell people here in this country that Kenya, in terms of journalism training, and you can confirm, they only compete with South Africa and Nigeria. I mean, we have people who are going to school well in journalism.
Yes.
Who lives off, I mean, by journalism. So to reduce it to mere, and you look at the contribution media has made, both during the independence time, look at 1992, I mean, just before the opening up of space, look at the history, and we have talked about this, just that it has not been documented. You look at it and you think it's only lawyers and a few political guys who have made this, but journalists have made a huge, tremendous impact in the growth of this country, both democracy and development. So to reduce that amount of impact and contribution was obviously a statement that he had been misadvised.
It's regrettable, Alphonse, but one of the things that is very clear is when political leaders and people in power and authority, sort of cheapen the work of the media, or appear to cheapen the work of the media, disregard the media, it has effect with how media is looked by, everyone else. And since then, you'd see how you'd say sort of the attacks before we go to this question of bias and where it emanates from, and even if you're biased or not, like this had something to do with where we are right now in terms of media space and media environment.
Yes, but you would not, I would not look at it as bias when, or a statement that cheapens the media, because how does that statement get out? It's the media which is putting it out. It's just telling the people.
Are you saying we should have killed it? Like, you know, how?
what's the value? What's the value of that statement to a democratic debate or public debate? Like, if he's attacking a newspaper, or he's talking about a newspaper and rubbishing the content or the place of the newspaper in public conversation, why would that need to be amplified? That's the space I'm coming from.
Right.
Like, it's a nice bite. It's something that you can sit back and laugh. But when you sit, before you go to sleep tonight and you're thinking, okay, I played that bite, gazetini ya kufunga nyama, either you are trying to embarrass the president or the person who made the statement by showing that they do not understand or they are intolerant to the media space. And we have a whole history since 2013 of how he has revisited, to use that word, the operations of the media. But when you think about it, that statement ought not to have seen the light of day. It doesn't add value to even to Oliver. It is something that was meant to rattle us or to rattle journalists, but in the larger scheme of things, it diverted our attention from interrogating the nonsense or the promises that were being put up.
Right.
Some of them very, very ambitious, and we did not spend time calling those out. We spent time instead chasing those nice bites that then we kept on replaying about his attitude towards a free press.
Right.
Yes.
So let's get to the theme of today and political season. We're here, and obviously we have maybe 2-3 different directions on how things can be. The question of bias has been starting to level against the media. You know, Media X is favoring Camp Y, Media X is favoring this camp. And I saw the statement by, you know, the Media Council of Kenya. I don't want to come to it. But the question, Oliver, is this, and for gentlemen in the studio. First, from where you sit, can you detect bias? And I know we're interrogating ourselves.
Yeah.
Yes. Do you detect bias? In all honesty?
Yes.
Go ahead. Where's the bias?
Okay. First, let me just go to what Alphonse has said and about amplifying that particular statement, and that's something that we are going to get to be in danger during this campaign season and this election season, is where we don't control the media space anymore.
Someone with a mobile phone will.
Yes.
We'll put it out.
Yes. And so that, like, this particular event was live on their Facebook pages and such things, and so it's not something that we can control, but I think we can take a step and say we will not repeat.
No, it's not something you can legitimize, because once it's on social media, it can be ignored, but once you put it mainstream, then you legitimize it. Yes.
Yeah, so it's a challenge that we have and we have to face. Coming back to bias, I think one of the things that we have to realize is that, and I've said this so many times, the level of media literacy in this country is a bit wanting. People don't know how the media operates, they don't know how journalists operate. They can't tell why journalists are doing a particular story in a certain way. And one of the things that you'll find is that when you're in this political season, and it has happened so many times, we've seen it happen, even previous elections, I've covered elections since 2007, is that people will accuse the media of taking a certain stand, not because it's wrong, not because it's truthful, not because they like it or not, it's because it does not fit to their political narrative. And most of the time, someone will come and attack you on Twitter or because that's where now it happens a lot.
Yeah.
They attack you, they insult you outside. You saw what happened to Muraya Karaoke with Babu Owino yesterday, where he was accusing Muraya of running negative stories about Raila.
Yes.
But does that mean that Raila can never have a negative story, and should the media ignore it? You see, so the biases are not coming from the fact that the media is propelling a certain agenda, but the biases are coming from what what perception or what school of thought audiences are in, and they are trying to see if you attack our man, you are biased.
Right.
But that not to say that it's necessarily true.
And sometimes, colleagues, I always find it that biases are sometimes natural. And why sometimes we care so much is the coverage impartial objective, because biases sometimes come. You are a Christian. Whenever you are writing a story on Muslim, you always find yourself the Muslim fundamentalist when you are covering like these grenade attacks. And you see somebody in Busia covering a story in Wajir and saying it's suspected Muslim fundamentalists. And you ask, but you are in Busia, how did you even know? Because we are Christians, most of us, and so don't, but sometimes we went to which school? And you know, sometimes they have influence on the way in the things we do. So some biases are there, they're inborn. And you look, if I grew up in Budalangi and I'm a poor person, sometimes when I see a rich person, I think he's responsible for my poverty. So sometimes those biases come and you start calling them a bwenyenye and what, you know, because sometimes, but it's really the stage of, are you fair and, impartial in the coverage you are doing? Because to get 100% somebody who is not biased, it's not. In any case, people also think, and this is something all of you have been in the newsroom, that one person just wakes up and does a headline. People fight in the newsrooms. There are lawyers, there are Kikuyus, there are Luos in that newsroom.
Right.
There are pro-DM, and people fight. By the time you are reaching a headline, there are a lot of things that are going on. As colleagues, we have discussed. So people to say that there's no bias in media sometimes, it's not truthful.
It's not possible that there's no bias.
I mean, they must be. There are those elements. In fact, at their level, the mainstream media is controlled. You go to some of the community radio stations and you hear watu wetu wameonewa, and that's a journalist on air and he's telling you Jaluo wameonewa, Luya wameonewa, Wakikuyu, you know, that thing is there. I mean, so that sometimes when, and a lot of us are also biased towards print, because that's where the magazeti ya kufunga nyama, but there's so much that goes on in media that sometimes when you look at one single article sometimes and make a judgment, a very general judgment on how, we miss it also. You know, so people must also, because in the discussion I tell you, at some stage when CORD, for example, Citizen chairman, Banamachara was the chair, who was part of the CORD summit. You remember in the CORD, that was 2019, and the feeling was that he will favor. But when we did an analysis of media coverage by Citizen TV, Honorable Raila versus Honorable Uhuru, we found and documented Citizen had given more space to Uhuru than Raila. But you see, people just make those general. There's a time when people said, for example, Radio Africa Group, the Star, not just that it was in every four of the headlines. I mean, Monday to Friday, 4 were on Honorable Ruto, either positively or negatively. But when you start now doing the real analysis, those things are just those audiences or those people who make those comments they are the people who are biased towards the media, and you see it coming out very, very easily. But that I don't say that those things do not happen. Sometimes I can tell you, especially Monday headlines in the newspapers. Even when I'm not, even if I have not talked to you, I can know which editor was on duty on Sunday in Star Nation, because I can just look at the headline and I can tell you, Jana Fulani alikuwa juu. I mean, but biases are there. I mean, we can't say that they are not.
But you're not giving a lot of confidence to the people who are watching tonight who are looking for, partial media that does, good science, a lot of that. Please help us out here, Jundwe.
So the facts are, as Victor has started, it's a very, very good primer to what I was to say. Yeah. So Victor says he has come to learn about a pattern of how coverage is done, and that there is a pattern of partisanship,
right,
which can be deduced from how people write stories, what they put prominently on the front pages, what they play for a story number one on air or on radio. So that is something that, and it's not just Victor. There are dozens of people who look at newspapers for a living, and they compare front pages every day. They will tell you so-and-so for 3 days a week will have a headline, his name will appear on the headline, and he will have a nice-looking front page picture.
Yes.
And check the newspapers for a week. you will find that in that particular newspaper which you were told, that person appeared at least 3 times and his name is on the headline at least once. So these are patterns, and we are not, we should think of our audiences as a bit smarter right now, because we do not have a monopoly of knowledge. The other thing is there are journalists who are our friends. Some of them are political strategists. Some of them are politicians. We sit together, we chat on WhatsApp, right. We argue, and then it gets to a point where now I am doing a story. And I pretend that now my opinions in that space, on social media, on WhatsApp, are now pure. Now I want to do a story. But then the choice of words comes up, where you are painting the politician you don't like as corrupt or as a non-starter.
Right.
And people would look at that and they will see this comes from this.
And recognize the pattern, essentially.
Yes, they recognize the pattern and they just call you out.
All right.
Yes.
And it's obvious.
I want to continue with this because we're in a very good place where we should.
Yes.
And there's a lot of feedback, and I want to go take a short break. But not before I take the LSK's president take tonight. And he says, good evening, Smart. Are the higher primates not adjudicating over the affairs of the forest in the newsroom? With all due respect, we take a short break. When we come back, I'll come back with your tweets and your questions. Obviously, there's bias. What is the pattern? And where we are currently in terms of politics in 2022, where do you see the biases and how do we solve this question of bias?
Are you on Nyota? Pata channel sita zaidi when you pay for more than 1 month on Nyota Bouquet. Enjoy more entertainment on Nyota.
Madam, si unanukia poa kama asubuhi fiti.
Na nitanukia vizuri hivi kutoka asubuhi hadi jioni. Juu with new Aerial Lavender nitabaki fresh siku nzima. Msafi na mwenye harufu ya kuvutia. New Aerial Lavender, usafi fresh wa kukawia kwa muda mrefu.
Yani ni usiku na bado unanukia vizuri tu kama ngware.
Ngarisha na Optiven. It's just about the right time to build your dream home. At the Garden of Joy by Optiven. It comes with Maram roads, solar street lights, water piping along the mains, and tree planting is done. Deposit 995,000 Kenya shillings and get a free washing machine for your home. Call us today on 0790 300 300.
Customer preferences are changing daily. You wake up one day, an innovation has come up and the customer wants a service in a way that you've not delivered before. Textbook Center aims to provide service, products and solutions that exceed our customers' expectations. Partnering with Sendi Transport ensures that we are able to deliver on our promise of being more than a bookshop.
Did you know at Ruiru Mabati Factory, we offer free delivery within the same day? Did you know at Ruiru Mabati Factory, you can open an account and lipa pole pole at your convenience? Did you know at Ruiru Mabati Factory, you can get customized sizes according to your roof plan to avoid wastage? Call us now on 0111 050 700. Ruiru Mabati Factory, Mali Safi kwa bei poa.
Get fresh, gotta get fresh.
Downy's new boom boom pow, Downy boom boom pow. Smells baya na uchafuzi na zidi na improve Downy. Protect nguo zangu na nukia niko safi. Lazima niwe fresh na Downy's boom boom pow. Boom boom pow, Downy's new boom boom pow. Smells zote na zi boom boom pow. Powerful freshness, Downy's boom boom pow.
Nani 15 bob too?
Let me see you make your move. Do it all, do it all, do it all.
But on those days, I
I compromise it all. Either my skin is sensitive or my back's against the wall.
You can have it all.
What?
Always brings it all.
Okay.
Get it all with new Always 2-in-1. Feather-like softness overall, even on the wings, girl. And rapid dry channels.
Let me see you make a move, be it all, do it all, have it all.
Always, we are the generation of change.
For years, others have told our stories and taken our narratives. That has led to misconceptions, half-truths, and outright lies. That ends now. It starts with the truth, our truth. A collection of our ideas, thoughts, and aspirations. The ones that propel us, enable us, and ultimately empower us. Find it all at nation.africa. Uninformed, unbiased, and comprehensive coverage of news and events, with in-depth investigative pieces as well as opinions from the best within and outside the continent. Nation Audio will also provide the best in creative audio experiences. Find fresh, innovative segment to stimulate your mind on Nation Puzzles. Stay up to date with the Nation newsletter. It's simple, affordable, and accessible to you with just one click from 150 shillings monthly. Subscribe now on nation.africa/subscribe and get the exclusive story. Nation. Empower Africa.
A place in your heart.
Audrey, I know all of you here are millennials, okay? Still, there's nothing wrong with playing it safe. Is it too much to ask not to do anything that could invite bad luck?
Audrey must be thinking her dreams are about to come true. Well, she's still gonna get her ending tomorrow. However, it's not a happily ever after.
So you're trying to scare us.
You know what, Audrey? If I were you, I would think long and hard. Because the man you're marrying is crazy. A place in your heart.
Get a 2-bedroom apartment at cash 7.5 million and a 3-bedroom apartment at cash 8.5 million. All units are ready and you can purchase an apartment with a tenant and start enjoying immediate returns on your investment.
Welcome back. With all due respect, just before we took the break, we all agreed that there's bias, massive bias. But let me go to your comments and take the first one from veteran editor Ken Bosire, who says, no story is ever completely cured of a degree of bias, perception, but coverage of political nature. Some of these things apply. Fairness, balance, sensitivity, responsibility, and above all, the person of the editor must be above reproach, i.e. step back from political space and activism. All right, Sir Humphrey says, politics is the art of the possible. It's the shaper and mover of destinies. Some rise with it while others drown with. Thus, excess of great care in reporting, media reporting coverage tilts towards where its bread is where its bread is buttered, though fair and objectivity is objective. Kunania on Twitter says, the media has been notably consistent in its coverage. Politicians have a funny way of seeking sympathy. The same media they are blaming today has been covering all their political events for ages. With all due respect. So, when we took a break, we agreed about some level of bias in coverage and just how the media setup is. And let's talk about today. There is one, I'd say a political side, and this is the deputy president side, Hustler movement. They believe to a certain degree that the media is against them. And all coverage appears to be, not favoring them, not interrogating their policies or issues rightly or correctly, or just being given a fair chance, fair space. Does this sit somewhere? Is this, from what you've observed and what is this a fair accusation, a fair claim to the media, would you say?
I wouldn't agree with them. And one of the reasons why I wouldn't agree with them is that we have had these discussions even with them. They complained, as Victor said, they complained about the Star a lot. We've called even them in and we had that discussion about some of those issues. And while there may be some perception of unfairness, I don't think at the end of the day the media has been unfair to the Deputy President. I think at the end of the day, as I mentioned earlier, we have to get to a point where we agree that one of the things that we have to be is we have to be fair to everyone. The next thing that we have to agree is that we have to be truthful in whatever we do. So if the Deputy President's camp was somewhere and they were heckled, why shouldn't we say it? Is it true or not? If Raila's camp was somewhere else and it was heckled, is it true or not? You see, at the end of the day, that's what matters. The media is not there to, I always say that we are not there to nurse people's egos. And we are not there to ensure that people are happy. It's not, that's not our business.
Right.
That's not our business at all. And at the end of the day, I think the Deputy President's team has people, especially his communication team. They are our colleagues. We worked with all of them in the industry. They know how newsrooms operate. They know how things work. They know who to call if they have an issue. But when they set out people to attack people, especially online, when you see politicians from that side attacking journalists online or media houses, that's not the right way to do it. And I think that's where we lose it, you know, because how does a journalist who is being attacked online feel when they are covering the next event by the Hustler Nation or whichever? You see, so as long as, even as they ask us to be fair, they have to also be fair to us.
True.
We media houses, you need to be fair to journalists also. You can't keep accusing them of ABCD without any proof. And yet, when you come down, you sit with us and we show you, as Victor mentioned earlier, you look at that time they were being accused, the Star was being accused of covering the Deputy President each and every other day. And people everywhere were saying, without the Deputy Ruto's name on the headline, the newspaper cannot sell.
Yes.
But when you go back and you look at the headlines, you analyze out of 365 days, you find that they don't even make 10%. So how is that fair to the media house or the journalists working there? So that's what we need to think about.
And thanks. And the other thing is that also, news is a product for sale. I mean, so if, and I normally tell my colleagues at the council sometimes before we release this assessment, I say, editors have an editorial discretion to make when they are making their news.
Yes.
They can make a mistake or not, and that's why the Complaints Commission of the Media Council is there. We anticipated that mistakes can be made. Let's allow editors to make that editorial discretion. They are the professionals, and they make, and now we can make a judgment if it's wrong, and wrong according to a specific tool. Like at the council, we use a specific tool. The media monitoring has a specific tool against the 25 articles in the Code of Ethics. So we will check if it's tonality, is it negative, neutral, if it is length. I mean, we use, so the tool is there. If we look at the bias, like we are talking about bias, at what level, you know, that's why we're saying that the biases will come. Because look at it, James, and colleagues who can confirm that sometimes those complaints don't merit. Because in most of our media houses, what has happened is that largely a Kikuyu journalist will go to cover a Jubilee party, a Luo journalist will be sent to ODM. We have seen it, and you can track, especially the four newspapers. You always see that. I mean, we have discussed about this, and it's also some strategic reasons and structural reasons, because this is the country we live in. But you will see. So how they have already determined that it's Victor who can cover Musalia Mudavadi because he's a Luya and he's ANC, and I've gone there and brought it. How would I be biased against them? How will I kill that story if they're already thinking, even by the time I'm being assigned, is that it's only Oliver who can do Jubilee or something? So at that level, and the most people who make that noise rarely read. newspapers, because I can point out 3 or 4 people I get to answer them online, because they will tell you how media has not covered this, or they are biased again. Then you ask which media did you read, or which article, or you give them links to stories, and the discussion stops there. They disappear.
So Twitter is like the only place that people are getting information. So because someone tweeted this and tweeted that, and then that sort of constitute media.
Or people want to make decisions that are purely editorial decisions for the editors. That if I have not seen my story on page 1, the newspaper has 32 pages, sometimes 46 pages.
Right.
But because my story was not on page 1, then they are biased against me. Not knowing that the story is even on page 6, a whole page. But because I didn't see it on page 1, then they are biased against me. So those, and I remember maybe later in the discussion, I will tell you, because newspapers have also invested in research, and they know the audience. It's a business. So to assume that they don't know what I'm doing and why, in fact, like today I was reading the Standard, which I was sharing in our group, it has 6 headlines. I mean, they know their cost edition, they know their Nyanza edition, they know what they want. So for one to be biased in all the 6 editions against your person, there's also a problem with you yourself, how you want to look at things, because some people want to force their thinking and their way of looking things onto media, and they want to do media work. One day I challenge somebody, why can't you start a newspaper if you think it's that easy, and also try that bias and see how long it will survive in this industry. So it's not as people want to think. People must be tolerant, but one of our people are also very intolerant, you know, and if things are not, I think, and I can get statistics, one of the most covered person in this country is the deputy president. He rarely misses. I mean, and he has good sound bites. He has an energetic.
And that's for good reason.
He can do 6 meetings in a day, and he gets covered almost on all those things.
He gets attacked by everyone.
Everyone.
So he has a lot of.
So to say that people are biased against him, sometimes also to expect to be biased against the media.
Yes. Alphonse, you can sit away from the media circles a bit from editorial point of view on this specific question of the Hustler Nation feeling slighted or not covered properly or covered negatively by the media. Do you see it?
All right, as a person who's not in the
day-to-day grind of Oliver, myself, and
yes, I don't see it. I don't see some kind of partisanship against him or for him. I can't detect it. I can look at patterns the whole week. I don't see that he has been either covered positively or negatively. The only thing that I see is that there is a certain push, and it's been there since, I think, since the handshake, let me say, when the newspapers or the journalists report certain aspects of his statements, and they put the facts out as they are, he turns against them and says either fake news or the specific journalist is attacked or trolled online by his online people. And then it makes it very, very difficult for journalists to even entertain him. One of my former colleagues, David Cheruyot, he looked at the pattern of, he called it digital criticism of the media in Kenya. And he was looking at how politicians are doing it, how their strategists are doing it, how bloggers are doing it, and how they are corrupting the public debate space. So that we are not having a discussion about issues.
The content itself.
Or the content. We now start having a discussion about the person,
the character and the person.
Yes, and it does not add value to what people. We do not help. We do not illuminate. Let me use that word. We do not make people understand that this decision that you're about to make, this is the background. When you look at report after report, so from 2007, and then you come to 2013. The most recent report, which was done by Reboot, which is an organization that did media monitoring around the 2017 elections, what they realized is there is this ethnic bias, and it would be useful, like for media houses, to have instances like this. Now, as a former,
when you say ethnic bias, what do you mean?
Ethnic bias in the newsroom. So it's something Victor alluded to, and I think Oliver. If I am a lawyer, you send me to cover Mudavadi's rally.
Right.
Yes. as an editor, I'm making a strategic decision because I understand that in Kenya, ethnicity is a mobilizing factor.
So original political organization, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So when they get there, they turn into mother tongue. So if they turn into mother tongue, other reporters will get a better story if I do not understand the language. So I will miss it. The job of a journalist is to listen and interpret what the public figures are saying, and our politicians have learned the art of going out and switching into mother tongue to do their dog whistling with their audiences and their supporters, so that they alienate different section of the population. So the job right now for a journalist, if I am making a strategic decision, I'm sending this reporter because I know they are going to get a better story about the inside story of the campaign, I will send that reporter of that ethnicity. All I need to do in media and information literacy is explain that decision to people so they understand. And it's not, if I decide that Smart or Oliver, today you're going to shadow Uhuru Kenyatta and you're shadowing them, I'm making decision in my mind that, and hoping and praying that you'll not now you'll not be co-opted into to become a publicist.
Yes.
Yes.
For the campaign that you're going to cover.
Yes. So I hope I send you there that you get so close to them so you get the best story. But I hope that you will have some room for professional finger pointing when it gets to that level, or where you're reporting what is happening.
But that hasn't happened, obviously, for several reasons. So obviously, the tribal sort of connection has not worked out to bring the professionalism back, because we had hoped that, yes. So that hasn't happened.
It used to work. It used to work because there were all these multiple checks and balances when you bring back a story. So I would send Oliver to cover Kibaki. Oliver comes back with the story. I look at the story and I sit alongside, I look at the quotes he has picked, the angles he has picked, and then I ask him, is this the best story you could get from the event?
Yeah.
Like, the debriefing has to happen. It no longer happens.
Oliver will tell you. Never happens now.
Yes. Oliver will tell you he gets a story from a person in the field through the smartphone.
Yes.
And
that's it.
That's it.
And he has to do it.
And the worst that is happening is that trust that we thought they will get the best, but now, even without accessing those people, because we trust this is our reporter who has been covering it. Now
Our man on the ground.
But the guys don't even talk to those guys. Now they are quoting third parties. So you get those main sources familiar with, close to the source, impeccable. When you hear those things and you are wondering, the guy sat down and is quoting himself.
He's quoting himself. Exactly. But I want to check what people are saying on Twitter before I take another break. And this is an important point that we need to go to. So these are the responses, or people are talking to us. Njogona says the panelists should reveal their engagements with different political establishments and how they have interacted with them beyond reporting for their current employer, so that you can understand their perspectives and where they come from. We'll come back to that.
The guy could have just come from school. He was never employed anywhere.
Yeah, says, question should be, is the media weaponizing its news coverage? So the panelists, National Cohesion, Red Cross, Police, Residents Association, Boda Association, weaponizing, news coverage. And what does that even mean, to weaponize news coverage? For media to be deemed impartial while providing crucial information to electorate, let it frame the issues versus what individual candidate has framed, i.e. issue-based politics versus personality-based politics. Country moves from person to the issues, e.g. the economy, health, education, etc. and etc. Someone asked an important question, and I'll mull on this as we go to the break. Why can the media, different media, decide we support Raila Odinga, or we support William Ruto, we support Musalia Mudavadi, we support Kalonzo Musyoka as a media, and that's our position, and we move forward? Why can that happen? Think about it.
Here's a toast kutoka Hunter's Choice. Cheers to those who dare follow their dreams. Kwa Kwa wale watu who chase their goals, whatever it takes. Ni lazima uweke effort bro. Through the late nights and heated moments. Ikikam kwa the game of life, Chief, you just have to own it. Hunter's Choice. Own your game.
You make is the bribes.
Pata hadi 500 MB free kila siku.
Just one capful of Dettol is enough to disinfect surfaces and protect your family and your home. Dettol, tested effective against COVID-19.
Here's a toast kutoka Hunter's Choice. Cheers to those who dare follow their dreams. Kwa wale watu who chase their goals, whatever it takes. Ni lazima uweke effort bro. Through the late nights and heated moments. Ikikam kwa the game of life, Chief, you just have to own it. Hunter's Choice. Own your game.
For years, others have told our stories and taken our narratives. That has led to misconceptions, half-truths, and outright lies. That ends now. It starts with the truth, our truth. A collection of our ideas, thoughts, and aspirations. The ones that propel us, enable us, and ultimately empower us. Find it all at nation.africa. An informed, unbiased, and comprehensive coverage of news and events, with in-depth investigative pieces as well as opinions from the best within and outside the continent. Nation Audio will also provide the best in creative audio experiences. Find fresh, innovative segment to stimulate your mind on Nation Puzzles. Stay up to date with the Nation newsletter. It's simple, affordable, and accessible to you with just one click from 150 shillings monthly. Subscribe now on nation.africa/subscribe and get the exclusive story. Nation. Empower Africa.
A place in your heart.
Audrey, I know all of you here are millennials, okay? Still, there's nothing wrong with playing it safe. Is it too much to ask not to do anything that could invite bad luck?
Audrey must be thinking her dreams are about to come true. Well, she's still gonna get her ending tomorrow. However, it's not a happily ever after.
So you're trying to scare us.
You know what, Audrey? If I were you, I would think long and hard. Because the man you're marrying is crazy.
A place in your heart.
Get a 2-bedroom apartment at Cash 7.5 million and a 3-bedroom apartment at Cash 8.5 million. All units are ready and you can purchase an apartment with a tenant and start enjoying immediate returns on your investment.
Welcome back. You're watching With All Due Respect. There's a lot of open heart discussions in this conversation tonight. I love it. And the question that someone posed on us on Twitter, and we start from there. Why is it impossible for the media to declare who they support? And they can say because of the issues that this guy is, is espousing, we feel strongly about, his candidature, his character, his capacity. Why is it impossible for us to do it? Have the first bite on this cherry.
Yes, thank you, James. That has been impossible because of economic reasons. mainly if, say, and I come from a newspaper background, and I also have looked at a television station which made that decision, and you lose.
You get punished afterwards, basically.
Not get punished, it's just the market. You lose. You lose. People stop tuning in. So you supported a candidate because you thought you had eyeballs, you had influence. But then they support, those who don't support that candidate, they just tune out. They decide, we are not, this person has already taken aside. We are in that space as Kenyan journalists or the Kenyan media, where we still have sufficient public trust in what we do. People do not expect us to take sides. They are looking at us as journalists to give a balanced view, an accurate recording of events to guide the debate. They will make the decisions. We do not need to tell them that this is what we
endorse
think.
the candidate.
Yes, or we endorse the candidate. That is immaterial. It doesn't help them make a better decision, because our job is to tell them that this is it. These are the candidates. This is what they stand for, and this is what you do. The other problem is we have reached a place where we do not, as journalists, we have cheapened the public debate to an extent that we now take the framing, and I like that Ndungu Wainaina raises it. We now take the framing of the politicians and make it mainstream. For example, why is Tanga Tanga even making it into the headlines? Like, how did that work? How is hustler, an English word, making it into the headlines? Like, how do we define, how do we have a public debate with those phrases?
But we can't run away from the fact that the personalization of our politics is a thing, that our politics is essentially personality centered. We can't run away from it.
Yes, that is factual, because I looked at front pages for 6 months between the start of the campaign in May 28th, 2017 to the end of the second election in October. And you can see, even if we are discussing something as a road, we have to have a voice, or frame it in such a way that it's the politician speaking. And that sometimes it enhances debate, but at other times it just muddies the water. People tune out before you have it. And the politicians know this. They know that if they come to you like what JB Muturi is doing, and he's talking about order, about prosperity and stuff like that. When he comes to you and he's talking about that, you can't quantify that.
Right.
Yes, so he can't make it. But when you come to a person who's telling you, this is what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna reform the constitution, give you X, Y, Z, whether it's wheelbarrows or jobs, whichever way you look at it, that is something that resonates. So part of it's being rigged. The lexicon or the words that are used by the political campaigns, they're strategic. They know how journalists will think. They know how we operate. They know what will make news.
Totally.
So they give that to you in little doses.
So the question is this, and I'm glad that you raised that point. So it's a question of who wags the tail. Is it the tail that wags the dog, or the dog wags the tail? In this sense, is it a political question that our politics is personality based, and therefore it's almost impossible for us to cover it in a different way, and that's a political issue? Or is it a media problem that we cover only political questions and therefore we're forcing politicians to be these big people that show up and solve all our problems?
No, James, one of the things, and I mean, studies have been done, and Nung raises a good point. Yes. Now, I remember in 2017, the Radio Africa Group had an electoral desk. Nation had an election desk. I mean, each of these media houses had, with the 10-point charter on what they were going, education, health, So to say that our media is not issue-based is to miss it. We sat with some of our colleagues to come up with those charters and what. So that is bad. But one of the key challenges we must appreciate, the same political analysts and consultants who make these manifestos for these parties are the same guys. It's a cut and paste. If you look at the manifestos of these political parties across, all of them is the same thing. They talk about free education, free primary and secondary education. Most of us are largely socialists, liberal. I mean, most of the parties. So they will talk about free roads, free almost. So sometimes you can't separate these parties by way of looking at their manifestos, because they talk about the same thing that they cut and pasted in one manifesto and the other manifesto. So that then what then differentiates? Because globally people support parties or candidates because of what they stand for, the substance. That this guy talks about so much of what he will do on water issues or education. So for that reason, and that's what our media house stands for, then we can give support, because he talks about bringing what we believe in as an editorial team. But when you get a political system where all of us talk about, you can't differentiate who is talking what he will bring or not, it already becomes so difficult for you even what even does, because all these parties, if you check the bigger parties, talked about free secondary education. Free something, free something, free something, free something. So what then makes you as a newspaper or a media house support Victor, not when they are all talking about free secondary education, I mean, in terms of what they are promising, which obviously, again, they will never, deliver on. So sometimes it makes it so difficult, away from, in addition to what Alphonse raised of the shakiness nature, because that media literacy, to understand that I can allow Oliver to support James and not penalize him, is not there, so that people, I remember last time, when, for example, Nation made a decision, and it's not even a decision, it's people who made a decision and thought Nation was anti-Raila at some stage, and all Nation newspaper vans couldn't go to Kisumu. This is history, is there. But when you look at the facts, it's not even that, but people just think. So it also makes it difficult when this is a business, this is a profession. Remember that time Nation had to evacuate their journalists from that area. I remember the other time where somebody wrote an whole email threatening the Star that they will burn down the media house. He can confirm, simply because somebody thinks that you have been unfavorable to them. There are no facts there. So that also cautiousness and safety risk analysis also then deters people from being openly supporting or endorsing, because you then don't know what might happen to you as an individual or to a business. So that the level of literacy in other places is a bit higher, that Fox or CNN will support or oppose Trump, and people will not carry the rungus to go and beat up journalists there. People say, it's there. In Britain we see it. But here, you try it not because of any the ideological or anything, but just because you feel James is my person, he has not been covered well, you carry a panga, So that also makes people also be cautious about, because when somebody threatened to go and blow up the Star, he wrote an email and said, well, if those guys are not evacuated, so you don't know, he might mean it.
Yes.
When people surrounded people here, there's a guy who came here for a press call, you remember, a discussion like this one, then police arrested them outside, then the followers came to threaten to burn Nation Center down. So that also makes managers and editors to be cautious about the environment in which they are working in. Does it support such
risk analysis?
Oliver can tell you, there are people who think he supports, and what he goes through sometimes online, you feel people are unfair to him, but people just feel so those things we have seen, and sometimes you can carry that burden to a level where you think even your family, even what's now became a threat to them, and you say, sometimes I don't need to.
Oliver, how do you deal with the questions that come your way about being biased and that sort of thing? How do you personally deal and professionally deal with it?
At the end of the day, one of the things that I always say I've maintained, and I have said it even here earlier, is that as long as I'm speaking the truth and I'm fair, I don't care. Because I've been branded so many things. It actually depends. I realized on Twitter, it depends on the tweet that I've put across. You'll see Raila people come attack. If I, like yesterday, was it yesterday or Sunday, when I said this country has a problem because of the crowding that happened in Githurai?
Yes.
Who was people on my case?
Amesahau. Juzi ndio kusupport ulikuwa.
When I post Raila's photo of the same, his people will now come and say I'm Tangatanga because I'm not putting Ruto's photo of the same. You see, so for me, as long as it's truthful and factual, and I'm not being unfair to anyone, for me, personally as a journalist, I don't care. That at the end of it is that's what matters to me. And one of the reasons why I think media houses and journalists cannot take positions in this country is very simple. We've seen journalists being attacked. Right now they are being trolled online. Previously, we remember 2007, citizen journalists were attacked. 2017, journalists were being attacked because people had this perception of what they think journalists should be and what journalists should do.
And the media and the
media ownership of media houses and all those things. But just going back to Ndongo Inaina's question, it's a very good question, but it's very academic. When you're looking at the media, you also have to look at the audience. The media does not work in a vacuum. If the audience is not consuming some sort of information, why should the media invest in putting that information out? If you look at our political coverage over the last few months, when Raila does his economic blueprint, those small things that he does, we have put it on air, we printed it in the newspaper and put it online. But if you go back and look at the reaction, even just gauging the reaction from the Twitter responses to those issues, and you look at a story where one politician appears to be insulting another one, yeah, and it's the reality, and that's why I'm saying this question is a very good question, but very academic in our situation. And that not to say that journalists cannot do it. We can change this directive, and we can decide to personalize the Mwananchi, and the public becomes the political person that when you having debates, next time instead of inviting politicians, invite Buddha Buddha guy and another, can we get more voices of women speaking in our stories? Can we get more voices of the hustlers we have been told about? Can we get more voices of other people other than politicians when we are discussing a story about whatever these policies that these people have put out? So we can change the way things are done, but it can be wholesale. Yes, it can be wholesale. That's it. I was earlier when we were waiting outside with Alphonse. I was telling him I was doing an analysis of our coverage or rather content on the Star website for August, and 20% of our stories are political. Only 20% are political, but 72% of the traffic were to those 20%. So the audience also has a problem. They don't want to consume the other stories that we are giving them.
And I tend to agree with Oliver, because this was documented, I think, in May, when the Kenya Media Assessment Report 2021 was released, and it was done by Chacha Mwita, who's been an editor for many years. Now, in that report, he interviewed Joe Dindo, who was an editor, and he also interviewed Dennis Galava. Now, what Odindo told him is that people will say that, now in that report people had said they need less of BBI and less of 2022 elections. They want more of security coverage and more of coverage on the economy. But when now they looked at the data, the Odindo and Galava were saying, if you do not have a strong political dimension, you're dead. And these are people who woke up every day for over 20 years selling newspapers. They have tried putting these things that people construe as development
we started
out, but it doesn't sell.
We started a newspaper called The Leader, Royal Macharia, Mutegi Njau, Bedan Bugwa, and others. And a weekly that was purely on development issues. No politics, no nothing. How long did it survive?
How long? Tell us.
It didn't. I mean, these are facts. I was one of the reporters there, and I can tell you. You could get hips and hips we had to leave. I mean, true. Look at it, just walk in our streets. Go to Garden Square, Jubilee, Ambassador. Those groups, and they are all tribal. The Luya group, each of them has a space. What are they talking about? It's politics. So when you say that it's only media that gives Kenyan politics, yet you have never worked, even in number 3 today, even a Boda guy calls you.
If you start a discussion about politics in number 3, you are going to get more audience than you speak about the budget.
The budget is and we are now talking about audience-led programming. That these editors sit and listen. Sometimes they throw stories online and see the feedback and see which story to lead with.
Right.
And if it's politics, you will not force people to read budget that it makes sense to them.
Okay, I need to go, gentlemen. Final thoughts, 30 seconds each. From where we are, 2022, do you see, media covering it fairly, or at some point you're going to lose it? What's your prediction for it? That is it going to be obviously high stakes, but
I think, as I said earlier, and I put it on Twitter earlier today, we are going to have a difficult job covering this election, but I think the media has what it takes to be fair and truthful and give Kenyans the right information.
Thank you.
We have a lot of faith in the media. They are going to do it. We are going to give them all the support that is necessary to enable them, but we are leaving it to them, the editorial discretion. Whichever support they need, Media Council and the rest will give media, but we trust they will do a good job.
30 seconds.
It will be very boring to expect absolute neutrality,
right?
In the coverage.
It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. So that much we know, and we don't have to pretend that we are balanced by being pro something, or anti something. That is also something that we cannot actually do.
All right, let me end with your comments. They have so many comments. I'm really struggling with the comments. The panelists should, I think we've gone through this. We've gone through this. Jogona, let's go to the next one. Noam Chomsky's work on the 5 filters of the mass media, namely ownership, advertising, flack, the common enemy, and media elitism, partly answers the question of bias in media. That's Masharia. James Mwadegu, our media houses are pawns in the politicians' shadowy chess game. They are known by elite politicians, and some come openly to declare the support for preferred candidates. Kenya media is not and can never be objective when it comes to politics. That's Mwadegu on Twitter. Say no to evil. I believe the media intentionally biases its content to draw attention. Problem, unlike the developed world, the bias is as malleable as the political dynamics. It's hard to point out what media houses really stand for politically, socially, economically, just like political parties. And the final one, times have changed when legacy print and electronic media had authority and were arbiters of information. The more you pretend innocence and continue with your condescending attitude, the quicker your obsolescence in the information and financial realm will be. You're all not being very nice to us today, but we'll take it all. Our final comment here. Earlier on, LSK President said the higher primates, as deciding the affairs of the forest. Claim Uganda has a response directly to say having is being disingenuous. Lawyers talk about their issues too, and he does not even want the media to comment on them without praising him. Why does he think journalists cannot talk about what they think about their own profession? And he has to be there. And that he has to be there for it to make sense.
No,
that's Clay Uganda responding to Mr. President, LSK. Nelson Habi. Thank you very much for your company. Thank you very much to Shunulu for coming and your wisdom. Thank you for allowing us to experience your wisdom. Thank you very much for traveling thousands of kilometers to show up here. And Oliver Madenge all the way from Twitter fights to here. With all due respect, we'll do it all over again next week, next time, same station. My name is James Watt. Have a lovely night.